everyone. I am waiting for the video to, there it goes. My name is Elaine Waterman. I am the Executive Director at the Firehouse Art Center, and I am back. This is actually my little corner in my house, but we are back here for a virtual kids art class, and today we are going to be doing a salt dough flower paperweight. We're going to do it from the very beginning, from the start. We're going to mix the salt dough together, and we're going to sculpt our floral paperweight together. And this is the one that I've already made. Gosh, you can hardly see it because of the exposure, but there we go. So it has a little face. So this one's my flower that I made the other day, and I baked this, and I recommend baking it just to kind of speed up the drying process so that you can paint it. So I will be showing you how to mix your salt dough. And then also create, hi guys, also create your paperweight, and then I will bring the one that I've already made and I will paint it. So what you can do is you can make your own paperweight, bake it or let it air dry, whichever is your choice, or you can leave it outside in the sun, and that works as well. And then you can watch the beginning part of the video with me, pause it, and then come back and paint it with me as well. So that's the awesome part about these live stream classes. You can take the class as if you are taking an actual class with a teacher. You can ask questions and comment and kind of say, oh, Miss Elaine, my salt dough is really crumbly. What do I do? And then you can get actual comments in real time. Live, or you can watch it at your convenience. So it's kind of fun because this is a format where you can do either or. So you can either take the class as if you're actually in the classroom with me live, watching it at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or you can just come back to our Facebook page and hit the live button on the side. There's a live button in the menu, and it'll show you all the live videos that we filmed. If you don't want to do that, you can also go to YouTube, and there is a whole art lessons playlist. You can actually play every single art lesson we've done since we've had to close the gallery in March. So lots of options. We want to give everyone options, whether you feel safe coming out and seeing us at the gallery while you're wearing a mask, or if you want to stay at home and just make sure that you, staying safe at home too. So let's get started. For your supplies, I'm going to tell you what you need first, and then I'm going to turn the screen down. You need salt, just the plain old sea salt. This one's iodized. You don't really need iodized. It doesn't really matter. And you need flour. Cheapest flour you can get, all-purpose white flour. I have a family that's mainly gluten-free, so we do have an access to gluten-free flour. It works totally fine, but it's kind of expensive, so you don't want to use the gluten-free flour if you can avoid it, but it will work. So use the white flour, and you'll need water, and I have some lukewarm water in my bowl already, and I will tell you your recipe for mixing it. So let's turn the screen down, and we can get started. Okay, so that is my workspace right there. You can see I have a lot of my materials out that we've been using for classes. This is a really cool, I just wanted to show you guys. This is really cool. Somebody gave this to me. If you didn't know, I made masks at the beginning of this whole pandemic for people, and somebody gave me this badge that says thank you for doing your part, and it has like wings and a sewing needle, so that was really cool. Anyway, I keep that on my desk just because I really love it. And then here are my pastels that I'm going to move to the side, and we're ready to go. So I have measured 1 cup, and this is a Tupperware cup, of lukewarm water into my bowl. The next thing I'm going to measure is the same cup, has to be the same because you want to have 1-to-1 for water and salt. I'm going to measure 1 of these Tupperwares of salt. Now, these are edible ingredients. Yes, you put salt on your food and you have flour in your cookies and bread. You do not want to eat this though because it tastes really weird and gross. I do know kids that have eaten it. It's not going to kill you. It's just super salty because that is a lot of salt. You see that? That's all the salt that's in there. Lots. Now, you wanted one of these for water, one of these for salt, and you'll need 2 of these for flour. So I'm going to open this flour because I need some new flour. I used up my flour for the project last night. And we're going to go through the mixing and then the sculpting of the paperweight. Now, if you're like, Miss Elaine, I don't want to do a flour paperweight. I just kind of want to mess around with my salt dough. Awesome. I think salt dough is an amazing material for tactile learners. It gets a little scratchy, but it doesn't have like that slimy feel that some people don't like. Like they really don't like that slimy feel of some of these kind of sculpty things. But this one's not slimy. It's more like scratchy and salty. So there's one. Now I need one more. So you can either scoop from the bag or you can pour it into the cup, and then there's 2. So I did, and you want your measurements, it's always going to be the same. This is a pretty good recipe. You want 1 of water, 1 of salt, and 2 of flour. So whatever your measurement is, whether you're actually using a measuring cup and you're following that 1 cup of salt to 1 cup of water to 2 cups of flour, or you're just using the container size to measure it. Just make sure that those ratios stay the same. 1 to 1 to 2. So salt to water to flour. Okay, now I'm going to take this. If you don't like feeling all the wet, gross stuff with your hands, you can use a spoon. I actually really love getting in there and using my hands to mix it. Plus, when you're mixing it with your hands, you can kind of tell, is it too crumbly? Is it too wet? What do I need to add? And once you get to the point of figuring out whether you have the right consistency, then you can figure out how to problem solve. And a lot of art is problem solving and figuring out the best way to do things. So it might be making a mistake and then learning from that. So I always say in art, there are no mistakes, there are only lessons. So if you find that your dough is too wet, then that is a lesson on what you need to add. So this is feeling like it's pretty good. It might actually be on the wet side, but I think that, you know, it's kind of staying in a ball, and as I am kneading it, you don't see like large wet chunks sticking to my hands. So that's kind of what you want to watch for. You want to watch for, is it really sticky? And that might mean you might need to add just a little bit of flour. So a little bit of flour at a time. You don't want to add too much flour because then you're going to get into the, well, it was sticky, I added too much flour, now it's dry and crumbly. So you want to just add a little bit at a time. Okay, so but this one feels like it's pretty good. At worst, it might be on the wet side, but it's kind of like, it is pulling off the dough that's on my hands, and nothing is really sticking to my fingers. And I can work with it, and it's pliable, and it doesn't have crumbly parts or big chunks of unmixed flour. So I think it's good. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it to its side right here. Okay, now I have a piece of aluminum foil. Now I want to make it on foil or parchment paper because I'm going to take this, like say this is my wet sculpture, I'm going to take it and I'm going to take it to my oven. that an adult has set up at 250 degrees. And you are going to bake your sculpture for 45 minutes to an hour. And depending on how thick it is, you might actually need to extend that time. This one I actually did for 45 minutes. And then I turned it over and it still had like a wet spot on the bottom. So I turned it over and I baked it for like 30 minutes more. So it is good to go for painting at the end of class. So I'm gonna put that to the side. But we're gonna make our flower sculpture now. And if you wanted to make it along with me, you can. If you wanna just take the time to play with your dough and kind of feel how it feels, we can do a little bit of that now. So I pinched off a little bit in my hand and I am kneading it and shaping it into a ball. So I'm just shaping it into a ball. You can roll it in between your hands to make the ball. And it doesn't have to be a perfectly round sphere, but you know, you want to make a ball shape like that. Okay? Then, if you want to, you can like put a little bit of flour on your aluminum foil so it doesn't stick, but I've never really had a problem with it sticking after I bake it. So I'm going to put the ball on my aluminum foil and I'm just going to press it down. This is the center part of my flower. So we're going to do a flower that is like a daisy. It has petals going around the central element. Okay? So now you have experimented with making a ball. You're going to pinch off some more dough, and this time it's going to be a smaller ball. You're going to roll a small ball in your hands like this. And if anyone's made dumplings or gnocchi, I feel like this is, you know, kind of how you do it. I've never actually done it, but, you know, rolling dough and then placing it on the pan, and you can make little rolls. But as I said, this has a high content of salt and will taste gross. You might want to wet the edge right here where you're going to attach the other small ball. And this ball goes right here, and we're going to press it down, and it's going to turn into the petal of our daisy. So just like that. So we're going to repeat that a couple of times. You're going to take your dough, and it doesn't have to be the exact same size. You know, you want it to be close so that it's not like one big petal, one super tiny petal, one big petal, one super tiny petal. But you know what? As far as a pattern that could occur in nature, that is completely something that could happen. So, you know, if you want to do it that way and make it a pattern of big and small, you can. This is your sculpture. So I'm going to take that ball and I'm going to press it down. And I'm just going to make sure it's attaching because we don't want it to break. Now I'm going to lift this up and show you guys the thickness of my floral paperweight. So you see it's not any thicker than maybe, it's not thicker than ½ inch. ½ inch would be the max. You don't want it to be thicker than that. So you want to make sure that you press it enough and that it kind of blends into that central piece so there's no cracking and no separating when you bake it. Okay? Now, keep going. We're going to roll another ball and wet where we're going to add it to. You might want to wet the bottom of your the clay ball as well. And press it down. That one was a little bit bigger. You can even kind of press it into the one that was next to it. And keep going. So this is a lot of fun because you can basically just mess around with the dough. You can roll them into balls just like this. You can roll it on the table as long as you have something covering it and it's not going to damage your table. You can roll them into balls that way. I'm going to show you actually what my favorite thing to do is, and we can shape it back into a ball after this, but I like making little clay cubes whenever I'm playing with my salt dough. So that's what I like doing. And then I'll take that, roll that back into a ball. Now this one seems a little bit big, so I'm going to pinch off a little bit and put it back. So, because I don't want it to be too big. I'm going to put that down, add a little water to the circle, and press that down. And I mean, you can experiment on different techniques if you wanted to. What you could do is have the circle and then put the circles around it, and you can place another sheet of aluminum foil and press it down with a book and see what happens. If you make a big mess, it doesn't matter because you've got the aluminum foil underneath, and you can scrape it all off and start over again if you make a mistake. So salt dough is really great because as far as like a sculpting material, it does take a little bit of time to fully dry. So there's a lot of play and discovery that you can do while you're sculpting. So if you look, I'm just taking the back of my fingernail and I am kind of smoothing the connection lines because it's always an issue with salt dough that as it dries, it pulls away and you get cracks at your joints where you're combining two pieces together. So you want to make sure that you kind of just flatten that out. And then I'm doing that with the back of my fingernail. You can do that with tools as well if you have clay tools. And if you don't have any clay tools, you can use pencils. You can use the back of a spoon. For details, you can use forks, all sorts of things. Okay, so I'm going to add this ball next, right here. Add a little bit of water, press it down. And we're going to have a little bit of clay left, so, you know, you can just mess around and make like little clay animals. I used to play with salt dough, like even when I was in college. I would make it, and I would make like these little tiny hands. I don't know why. I would just sculpt tiny hands, and I really liked getting in there with like a toothpick and making like the tiny details for the fingers. And I would fire it as if it was like real clay in my halogen lamp that I brought, you know, for college. So my roommate thought that was weird, but she knew me. We were friends from high school, so she knew that was kind of stuff that I like to do. So this is our last petal, and then you can either bake it at that point, or you can add a face. Now, if you look at the one that I made, I added a face to mine. So it's up to you whether you want to add a face. I'm going to add a face to this one as well, just so you can see how I did it. And this is our last petal, and there is our flower paperweight. Now we have smoothed out some of the edges just to make sure everything is connected, but I still want to have those defining lines kind of like as outlines for when I paint it. So what you can do if you want is you can take a pencil and you can just kind of draw them in. Okay, so I'm going to do the circle, and then you can draw in the petal shapes just like that. Okay, so that is how I've made my salt dough floral paperweight. Now I'm going to add some eyes, and let's see if I can get it a little bit closer so you guys can see. So I have these tiny little pieces of clay or salt dough that I've taken, and what you can do is you can put a little bit. So I'm going to wet the area for my nose and kind of make some little marks right here with my fingernail, and then I'm going to stick the clay on. And this one I did more of a realistic face with the nose that is triangular and the eyes and then the mouth with the lips. But I think I'm going to go a little bit more cartoony for this one. I'm going to put the eyes right here and I'm going to wet it first and add the clay like that. And maybe I'll add cheeks and then I'll draw the smile on. So these are the cheeks for the flower. Just like that. Okay. So that is what my face looks like right now. I'm going to take these really tiny little balls and I'm going to wet where the eyes are and I'm going to add them. As the pupils, I guess that would be. So we move it closer. That is what my flower looks like right now. Then I'm going to take my pencil, or you can take the back end of your paintbrush, or you can use like a toothpick or the pokey part of a fork, and you can make the line for the smile. Just like that. Now obviously flowers don't have faces or smiles, but this is kind of like a friendly flower paperweight. And that is what my floral paperweight looks like now. So what we did is we started with our salt dough mixture, which is 1 cup to 1 cup of salt and water. So salt, water, and then flour is 2. So whether I measured with this little Tupperware, so I did 1 of water, 1 of salt, and 2 of flour. So that's what the ratio needs to be, 1 to 1 to 2. Then we kneaded it all up. We mixed it all up until it was consistent and it wasn't too sticky and it wasn't too dry. We took little balls, so this was the largest ball of salt dough. I smashed it flat, then took smaller balls of salt dough, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, put them all the way around to create my flower. I made sure that I smoothed out the edges to make sure it stuck to each other and it wouldn't fall apart or crack when I baked it. But then I went back and I drew the lines with a pencil for definition. Then I added the face, and it is now ready to take to the oven, which an adult has warmed up at 250 degrees, and you can bake it for 45 minutes to an hour. And it might even need to be a little bit longer depending on how thick your floral paperweight is. I'm going to turn this to the side so you can see how thick mine is. So it's got, you know, a pretty thick 1/4 inch, but definitely not any more than a half. So if it's more than a half, it does take a lot longer. And if you don't have an oven warmed up or ready, or you don't want to use an oven, you can always just put it outside in the sun, and the sun will heat it up and dry it. You just want to make sure that if it starts to rain, you bring it back in, or it will just disintegrate back into flour and salt, and we don't want that. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it to the side. I really like this one. I kind of like it more than the realistic face. I'm definitely going to paint this one after I bake it as well, so then I'll have 2. So it's kind of a fun gift, you know, you can make it and then paint it and you can give it to friends, and, you know, just kind of make gifts for other people. So I'm going to take some paint now. This is my baked one that I've already baked in my oven. It's fully dry, it's dry on both sides. And as you can see, I did the same thing where I smoothed out the edges on the front, and you can kind of see the separation more on the back. And with salt dough, it does make your hands a little messy, but you know, I like that. I like being able to feel my materials. So I have green, which I'm going to paint for the center. And then, so the center of my flower is green. I'm going to do blue on the outside. I'm going to paint around the eyes and the mouth. And I think I'll make them a different color. We'll see. Now this is acrylic. I know there was a question that was asked, can we use like paints that don't stain? And yes, see if I have any watercolor. I might use some watercolor on it as well. So acrylic is the one that would stain the most. Then there's tempera, which is a kid's paint and is actually washable. But there are certain colors of tempera that are a little bit more temperamental and they don't wash out as well. So sometimes red is that color. For some reason, I have a hard time getting red out if I have some tempera on my clothing. Okay, so there is my green flower face. It looks kind of creepy in the video, but I think it looks actually really good. So I'm gonna rinse out my brush. So there's swish. Remember there are 3 steps. Swish, wipe it on the side of your container, and make sure you get most of that paint off, and then blot it. And you can blot it on a paper towel. So blot it on the paper towel, and then I will switch to my other color. And I don't have any of my watercolors here except for copper, so maybe I'll do one of the petals in watercolor and we'll see how well it shows up. Acrylic you can wash off if you get to it soon enough. Like if you get it on your clothing and you immediately go rinse it out and get it with some soap or maybe hit it with some stain remover, it is a water-based paint, so you may be able to get most of it out. If it dries though, it's pretty much permanent. Okay, so I am moving along with my blue and green flower. And with acrylic, you can also water it down. So this is blue acrylic, and I added lots of water to this one. So you can create like a lighter color or a more translucent color blue as opposed to being so opaque and dark. Then I will put the lid back on this one. And this is my liquid watercolor. So we'll see if this shows up. Now these liquid watercolors from Blick are pretty concentrated. And it does show up really well. It's obviously a little bit more translucent than the straight acrylic, but I will move this up closer so that you guys can see. Now, if you were to bake this, it would definitely become more sturdy, but I would still recommend coating it with some kind of coating if you are going to leave it outside, because I feel like it would still disintegrate if this was left out in the rain. So that's what it looks like right now. I'm going to do a mixture of maybe I'll put some white. And the best thing with having it on this aluminum foil after it comes out of the oven is that you can use it for your palette. So you can also use it to create the colors that you're using. So I'm going to do a light blue for the mouth and the eyes. Awesome. So that is my flower paperweight. You obviously can choose whatever colors you want, and you don't have to do, you know, like the one color that's different. But I just wanted to show you. So this is the watercolor. The white that I mixed in was tempera. And then this is acrylic. This is acrylic like full strength, and this is acrylic with water mixed in. So just a couple different ways to do it. And that is it for today. I'm going to do a little rinsey rinse on my brushes. So swish and wipe. I'm going to put them to the side. Make sure all my paints are closed up. Salt dough can get a little messy. As you can see, there's lots of flour and salt on my table, but I'm going to turn this up and say goodbye. And so, yeah, thanks guys for coming and sculpting. So we crafted, we sculpted, and we painted. So thanks for coming to do that with me today. Hopefully you had a good time, and this is the last class for our plants and trees week. I guess we did mostly plants, but I think next week I'll have to check what that might be. I think it might be butterflies and bugs, which I'm really excited about. So once again, we'll follow the pattern of Tuesday is going to be more drawing and painting, and then Thursday is going to be more multimedia, collage, and sculptures, and kind of just introducing you guys to maybe some materials that you haven't used before, but still hopefully trying to use materials that you have at your house, because I know it's kind of difficult to, I have a fully stocked art studio just because I've been doing art and art classes for so long, but it's hard when, you know, you're doing lots of art projects at home and it's like every week you have to get something new. So I'm still going to try and do things that you guys have at home, and we'll plan for something for Tuesday and Thursday of next week. Thank you so much for coming to craft with me. If you made the project, send it to me. Best way is probably through my email, but you can also do it on Facebook through the event related to this class. So Elaine at firehouseart.org. Make sure you check out the website, check out the YouTube channel for any classes that you might have missed. And we're almost doing fun stuff at the Firehouse. So we'll be doing some fun stuff live. We'll be doing some fun stuff virtual. So keep looking at the website and the Facebook page, and we'll be posting all the things that we're doing. We've got the virtual art market that's coming up again in July and August. We're working on some fun creative things that we might be able to do downtown. Still doing art bingo and creativity bingo. I know I have some kiddos that submitted, and I will get you your art packages. I'll shoot you an email whether you want 2D or 3D, and you can let me know. But yeah, we're just having a fun time down in downtown Longmont, trying to keep it creative, and trying to fill the summer with things to do, whether outside, inside, whether at the gallery, or whether from the comfort of your own home. But if you have any questions or any suggestions, definitely shoot me an email. Once again, it's Elaine at firehouseart.org. And I hope to see you kiddos and parents if you're doing it with your kids, and even just adults that are just doing the classes for fun too. I will see you guys hopefully next week. Bye guys. Thank you.